Oh, it's like From. Yeah, it's like From. Everybody's tearing each other apart. Sarah's a bitch. She's a murderer.
You're tearing me
Same
apart.
We Squawking Dead, the podcast. Why am I talking like this?
I don't know. Why are you talking about sewing?
I couldn't get out of it. I was in the stuck place. Can you imagine a stuck place and it's just Tommy Wiseau?
Just Tommy Wiseau?
Or it's the cast of The Room in the stuck place. Oh, can we we need to contact him.
It's my nightmare.
Instead of The Room, it's The From.
I don't like it. I hate it.
Oh, hey, Boyd. Right?
I hate
it's now you're like, oh, this needs to happen. This needs to happen.
Nothing needs to happen again.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo.
And he's with Bridget, aka Punky Brewster.
And today we're here to talk to you about From's 8th episode of its 3rd season titled Threshold. And truly, we are at quite the threshold. Unlike the last few episodes, this episode gave us too much at once. It revealed so many secrets, but then still in that nebulous way, we still don't know what's going on. Okay, here we are.
Well, it gave the people their answer about who threw the rope. Because everyone was freaking out about that rope. I just saw a TikTok about this rope. Yeah, it was just in one of our last episodes. People just keep talking about the rope. So this was beautiful. This was perfect.
Notice I had the least problem with the rope. Yes, this place is mysterious. Obviously, this guy has telekinetic powers and threw the rope down.
What do I care about a rope? Oh, seriously. Out of everything that's happened, that's the one thing that I'm going to get hung up on is the rope.
Even Moon Wears Pants Dave did not care about the rope. Did not construct a elaborate Rube Goldberg-esque theory of how Martin was able to throw down the rope. Regardless, we will talk about that more because it does inform the audience of something that is probably Moon Wears Pants. But moving along, I wanted to inform everybody that the first season of From is available on AMC Plus for viewing. Did you know that, Bridget?
I did hear that, which is rather exciting. And also made me go, can I cancel my MGM membership now? But I can't.
I thought that as well, but Amazon Prime does have a package whereby you can, well, this is obviously for US residents probably only.
Yeah, I would guess.
But you can get AMC Plus and MGM Plus for, I think it's $15.99. I don't know if that's a deal per month, but look into it. If you're interested in both those channels, plus so many others, you'll get a bunch of things with it. Moving on to the title of this episode. The name of the title was actually mentioned by Ethan in this episode in relation to Julie just before she stepped into the dungeon, which is what I want to call it. It's not the tower. It's not Ankui, although we'll get into that. There's also the threshold of the shack. There's the threshold of Victor almost finding the answers, the secrets that he so longingly wished to find like crazy in this episode.
The only other one I could really think of was as Elgin takes Fatima down into the cellar.
I think Jim and Henry is also an interesting threshold. Jim being at the edge of his wits end in his marriage, and Henry kind of pulling him back and having him renew his vows. I thought that was a threshold of some kind that he didn't have to cross, and that maybe Henry helped him pull back from crossing the threshold of divorce or whatever you want to call it, split skis.
I don't know. Jim is pushing.
I made some very stunning analyses in my notes for this episode, and I want to hit them one by one. No, I'm amazing.
They're stunning.
We were talking about an M. Thompson in the last episode, the antipsychotic medication that Ellis rooted out from, not necessarily had to be from the ambulance, but he was talking about in relation to the what's the good of all this stuff if we can't use it? There is another M name that we did not say. Because this episode have focused so much on Tilly and her death, Tilly is short for Matilda Thompson.
Oh, interesting.
So possibly the antipsychotics were Tilly's. Now, all of a sudden, that does kind of make sense a little bit. If you think about it, Tilly is a little flighty. She's a little loosey-goosey.
Well, yeah, but I don't know.
I know. It's iffy.
Yeah.
But it sort of makes sense if you think about it. Maybe she went off them.
She did bring a bunch of medication at the beginning.
Then I suddenly felt a little less bad about Tilly dying, because if those were her medications,
My God, Dave.
what if she is a psychopath and stopped taking her medication and would have been the downfall of Fatima? Anybody in this place? This psychopath? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. But it's worth thinking about. Hey, it's a hell of a lot better than Acosta not being Acosta. And it did make me rethink her desire for her gun. And I'll tell you why. Because this place seems to draw out these compulsions in people to do certain things. Some more than others because of their experience. Julie has this inclination or compulsion to cross the threshold into the dungeon. Randall has this compulsion to stay away from the dungeon. Acosta with her gun. She was adamant about the gun, even though it makes no sense to have to fight the monsters. But for the people,
if anything,
there's no real reason behind it.
Well, no, but this episode gives her reason, because now there's been a murder. It's easier to fight for the ability to have a gun now. But she is still staunchly in this like anti-Boyd headspace right now.
I don't blame her though. I'm starting to be on, not in her camp, but like anything, like when we were trying to rationalize Randall, we hate him because he hates our people that suffer. But then you realize, oh, he could be, if you looked at him in a different way, he could be the hero of this. What makes him any different than Boyd trying to figure out this place? Doesn't really make him, he's just mean to people. That's all.
He's not even really mean. He's just matter of fact.
Well, and he's not really mean anymore, as we've seen in this episode. He's kind of a different person. Kind of like Marielle's a different person.
Yeah.
Let's go to another one. We kind of touched on it now. Randall has vibes to not go into the dungeon and is starting to be nicer.
Yes.
Julie is compelled to go there like an addict. Marielle is almost a completely different person. We've kind of touched on this.
Okay.
She's humming as she goes up to Colony House. It almost sounded like Silent Night. It's funny because I was singing it right before our episode discussion of Daryl Dixon's
It's probably the music
finale.
from the music box.
Could be. Yeah. Okay. But I noted that in thinking about where these people are at, Randall's being nicer. Julie is acting like an addict. And Marielle is kind of like what happens with some people who take psychedelics and their addiction is cured. She shows no signs of addiction, a completely different person. It's as though the dungeon fundamentally altered these people.
Oh, I thought you were saying it like flopped them.
They all kind of switch places, in a sense. They're all a little different. For God's sake, Randall apologizes to Elgin for giving him stuff.
Now, to be fair, he's had like a horrible experience, so some could qualify this as a near-death experience. That's been known to change people. True.
Maybe you're onto something. Maybe Marielle also having a near death.
Although there is some data that fights that, which I think is really weird. For instance, there is a test that you can take. I've talked about this before, but Clifton Strengths or Strengths Finder. It's by Gallup survey. I took it when I worked my banking job years ago. Probably it's changed though, because I've been through some really like traumatic life altering events in that time. And they were like, no, it doesn't change. And I was like, that can't be right. And they're like, no, they've done studies on it. There's no drastic change among people who go through life altering events, which is baffling to me. It really describes who you are at your core. How is that possible? The fundamentals of you do not change despite the things that may happen to you in your life, which is kind of crazy.
It might just change priorities though. And the version we see of Randall is probably most likely not the version that he was in real life. Or at least it may be a tweaked up version of that, because you have to think about the birthday present for the nephew. He's probably not like that around him. And when I see him with Julie, I see kind of older brother vibes now. You could thank me. Thank you, Randall, for letting Christy and Marielle, letting me stay at Christy and Marielle's. You're welcome.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of goofy.
Which is a side we don't often get to see of Randall.
I think, if anything, Julie's nature is exemplified by currently what's happening with her parents. Tabitha is showing that she is eager to find some sort of answer now, because there's some pieces connecting her to this from prior to being here. Jim spent literally the first entire 2 seasons trying to figure out what it was about this place. The righteous indignation that he showed with Jade is ludicrous to me. The reason you two look alike now is because you are the same person. You absolute morons.
They'd be really good friends in another world.
The wide angle shot that they had in the bar, Jade's over here on the right and Jim is facing him on the left. Mirror images. Their hair is kind of both at the same length. Jade's beard is longer, but Jim now has that permanent 5 o'clock shadow. There was just something really similar about it. Anyway.
You're on the money. And they're both kind of engineer types. They try to figure things out.
So like the whole, I want to be the
approaches.
smartest. Duh, dude, it's you. You want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to be able to figure this out before everybody else. Jade does too, but you're both the same type of guy. You think you're the smartest person in the room. So you want to be able to prove everybody wrong that you can solve this and get everybody home. I think that that's really shining through in Julie now. She's inquisitive about this draw to this place because she wants to know what that was all about. It's why she wants to seek out Randall to talk to him about it, because she wants to kind of gather information to know, like, what was that? Why were we there? I think it's natural for anyone to really kind of wonder. But I think maybe the older, more jaded people of this 3 are kind of like, life is hard outside of here, and I know that. And now this place is even harder. So I just know not to question it. Just something about this place that sucks. I don't need to know more about it. It sucks and it's probably trying to hurt me. And she's like, but what if it means something else? And she like wants to know more about it. Which, to be fair, got us some answers in some other areas. So it was worth it for the viewers. I don't know if she'll look back on it and feel like it was worth it.
Okay, so let me say 2 things. One, I'll go with the thing that makes me feel like an awful human being first, because it's funnier. Yes, as much as I think Julie is making a huge mistake, or initially, right? Because when she goes there, we get some answers. But that's the problem. I want her to do the thing so that they can give me the answers, but in the meantime, she's suffering.
Yes.
Just like when Fatima's trying to escape the cellar. I was going, Elgin, get that bitch in that room.
I mean, part of me was like, well, let's see what happens here.
Right. But then again, this whole thing is sus.
Well, dude, aren't you screaming out loud? Whose baby is it then, Elgin? Whose baby is it? What do you mean it's not your baby?
That's not the important part of this discussion. The important part of this discussion is that I'm a horrible monster who is rooting for Elgin to drag a screaming, pleading Fatima who is scared to death into a room in the dark to have her baby, like the story about the Ankui kids, which I just heard. And I'm still rooting for Elgin to take her into the dark room. She's so scared, and I'm a monster. And there's a reason why this show is genius, because it puts you into a position where you're sick and tired of being left in the dark about all these mysteries, to the point where I'm telling you right now, it's like the show wants us to turn it off, because in keeping it on and rooting for the wrong things, you are the horrible person. You just are, Bridget. Not me, you.
Yeah, that's fine.
No,
I was rooting for it.
Me too.
The whole time I'm like, okay, I really do want to find out what's going to happen. What is Elgin doing? Why is the camera taking pictures and showing him different things? The camera showed him where Fatima was. And then what do you need the blood for, Elgin? So you can go deliver this baby down here? And are you going to lock her into that room? Like, what is the plan here?
We're not done with Julie yet.
I mean, I just need to know more.
You do. We all need to know. This is your answer for everything, Bridget. We just need to know more. Dave, stop with your theories, David. We'll get the answer, David.
Well, there you go. You got one answer. Where did the rope come from? Now you know.
Now you know.
Julie threw it down.
Know.
We need to tell Rachel. There was an answer. It was delivered. And so now you can stop being mad about how many questions there are.
That is so funny. Another thing about Julie is when Randall refuses, with perfectly valid reasons. When a place makes the hair on my neck stand up, I tend to stay away from those places. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
She turns into the teenager she always was. She actually looks furious. Not just angry.
She looks so mad.
Furious, which is weird. And I'll tell you why. it's not just a teenage tantrum. She's an addict. She needs this guy to go. And not only that, she switches on a dime. She's having a good time with Randall. She's really enjoying her company with him this whole time. And it was all to lead up to this question. Well, not all. Okay, not all. But she gets this question and all of a sudden it's complete. She changes her demeanor completely. I don't think it's the addict thing. I don't think she traded places with Marielle necessarily. I just think it's an interesting narrative note. It doesn't have to mean anything. It could be just poetic license or whatever.
She thought they had connected enough that he would want to find the answers with her, but he doesn't want answers to it because it scares him, as it should. So what does she do? She does a completely irresponsible thing.
She goes to her younger brother.
And gets her little brother? Are you kidding me? You're going to do this
Instead of
super
her
dangerous
older
thing
brother.
and you think, let me grab my little brother? It's so stupid. It's horrible.
It is objectively stupid, but on the other hand...
Well, he does save her, so...
From our perspective, doesn't it seem like the wisest decision? Because we have acknowledged that Ethan may know some things about this place that he doesn't think he knows. We know that he might be special.
Well,
just
I
like
wondered,
Tabitha. He's a sleeper.
because there was so much focus on crossing this threshold that if she had crossed back out of it, would she be able to come back? And that was proven when Kenny grabs her and pulls her out of there.
Like that.
I know. And you know what? No, I take it back. Don't tell Rachel anything because she's going to be so pissed that this music box thing came back. So don't talk to her about it at all, actually.
Let's focus on the dungeon for a little bit because when she's in it, can we agree that there's a time travel element now that is confirmed?
Oh, yeah, obviously.
An element. It's a bit wonky. You are informed of a couple of things. One, when she leaves the dungeon,
yeah,
she winds up in the tunnels, still in the past.
Sure.
She hears Tabitha and Victor in the tunnels.
Correct.
She calls out for them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't hear her, which tells you something. In this temporal state that she's in right now, what she can interact with is the figments. And I contend that Martin is a figment, just like Fabi, just like Fatri, because Martin knows her name. Julie. Sorry, I said to use his voice.
I actually thought they were trying to say that it was Randall at first.
What?
Well,
you need to explain that.
Okay,
That's interesting. That's a Dave move right there.
I know this, and I like shook it from my head immediately after it happened. But the reason I thought that they were trying to say that is because he's in the dungeon, he's locked up, he's in the middle. He looks at her, and it almost seems startled, and is like, Julie, and I was like, oh, was this Randall that's like locked up? He's been up here forever.
So you
or
too get
whatever?
vibes. Oh, you jerk. You were like, I get the feeling that Tabitha and Jade are brother and sister. Shut up with your dumb stuff, Dave.
That's weird. But
oh, yeah, but Martin is Randall.
Well, I thought that's what they were trying to sell us. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, they're in the back of the dungeon. They're where the skeletons were hanging up. Well, previously when Boyd first meets Martin, there were skeletons in the back.
Yeah. Anyway, then I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then also, why would Randall say that his name was Martin? None of it made any sense. So then I kind of was like, that can't be it. And I just let it go.
Now we have to look for tattoos, you son of a mother. Now we have to look at Martin's tattoos in Marine. Maybe because you had said, okay, you stupid. You're not stupid. I love you. Because you had said, oh, Randall strikes me as, see, again, vibes, feelings. Randall strikes me as somebody from the military. He had that rifle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that shaved head. And time travel is time displacement, temporal state. That's a thing now that's been revealed.
But why would he pretend not to know Boyd?
Well, he didn't.
Well, I'm sorry. Why would he pretend to be someone else? Unless Randall does something really horrible. What's happening to me? What's happening to me? Okay, I don't like this. Let's stop. I don't want to do this
because you're going
anymore.
you're going into the Dave realm with it. Here I'm actually trying to pull it into something that's tangible. Actually, a lot of my points in this episode, Fatima and whatever, a lot of them are tangible and grounded in reality. This temporal state stuff, it definitely isn't.
Well, it's grounded
then again,
in reality.
Anyway, let me just put it this way. We agree that she's in a temporal state because she can only interact with, she can interact with the environment. She cannot interact with people. I would go so far as to say if Boyd saw her face or whatever, or her face was peeking out over the well chimney thing that Boyd is stuck in, I don't think he would be able to see her. Just like when she was calling out for her mom, she didn't hear her. So there's that.
I'm not willing to concede that.
It's fine. It's fine. But we do agree that there is a temporal state situation. The first thing she's traveling back in time. The first thing she sees is them
I don't know what
hanging
the
up on
hell
the
that
wall.
means, but yeah, sure.
But she goes further back in time to Boyd. Anyway.
Yeah.
So this is what's interesting about that scene. Martin keeps popping in and out of reality. Agreed?
Okay.
She doesn't see him, then she sees him. Then she is about to leave and she looks back and doesn't see him again.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's moved further back into time.
That's what I figured it was the time
Either
shifting.
way, I'm almost not willing to go there. I'm actually willing to, because even doesn't he disappear from Boyd's view? Anything's possible there. I just think he's a figment. Now, I want to take this a little bit further because this is going to sound completely nuts. So get ready. The Moon, get ready to put on your pants. Prepare your belt, Moon. I hate this. We keep calling Tom fake and Abby fake and Father Khatri fake. What if they're not fake?
What do you mean?
What if they too are in a temporal state?
We're floating a little too close to it's all just purgatory.
To the moon.
Do you know what I mean? I just don't.
Well, no. They're not dead in this scenario.
No. I'm just saying, like, this is like some lost shit, and I don't want to.
Well, it's the creators of Lost, so
I don't know.
It's like an alternative explanation for this.
I don't like
here's
it.
the thing.
I don't like it.
Let me explain it a little further.
Okay.
The fact that they're talking to possible spirits, that to me is a bridge too far. But them talking to a version of them that was either pulled out of time or a version of them that was pulled out, it's kind of like a dream, if you think about it. Abby Stevens meets Boyd. Let's say she actually meets Boyd with the ballerina and the torch, and you're just extending their suffering. She was pulled out of where she was. And then when she comes back, she doesn't remember a thing. There's something to be said about that. It's not about spirits and ghosts. They're actually pulling their data, let's say, that the data that is them, their personality, pulling them out of time as an omniscient viewer and basically informing them of stuff. I can swallow that a little bit more. To me, it's a little bit more interesting than, because ghosts is convenient. What's inconvenient is something that's more complicated.
I am of the thought process that ghosts is fine. But...
Of course you are, spiritual Bridget. But we are reversing roles on that respect because...
I'll just say
But you
fine.
see what I'm saying. I'm going to cap it here.
Okay.
I'm going to go as far as to say that Martin 2 is either from another time. How long could he have possibly been there? In reality perspective, right?
Yeah.
Was he down there for decades upon decades, hundreds of years? Or it may be more likely that this is just a version of him from way back in this temporal anomaly place.
Yeah.
And he's not been existing for hundreds of years or 50 years or 40 years or whatever it was. Because how long can you survive chained up without food? From Martin's perspective, he just got here or he was here for a little while.
Well, 3 days if he's not getting any water. So
right. If we're in reality world, right?
Yeah.
So, but from his perspective, this is all happening at once.
yeah.
He sees Julie, he sees Boyd, and then the worms and all that stuff.
I want to go back to the original episode to see if the dialogue that Martin is saying matches up. Where he's like,
They're
you've
almost
got
here.
to.
It does match up.
Does it? Okay, I was curious
Yeah.
if they had really taken the time to really use it the way
Plan
that it
this
was
out.
written. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, it that part does match up. The rope does match up. Cool. Okay, so let's go a little bit further down the rabbit hole. I had this thought, and you'd done this. You said this, and Rachel's gonna hate this. It's fine. What if the worms aren't the worms? I'll explain. That should be the title of the video. The Worms Explained. Do we acknowledge that this place shows people things it wants them to see?
Sure.
Okay, let's go further. Do you acknowledge, and might be tougher to swallow, that it will show people some things, and sometimes multiple people, while others don't see it?
Sure.
Boy in white. Right, okay.
Sure.
What if the worms weren't worms? What if they were what the place wanted him to perceive? Now, wait, you're going to say, how did Christy see the worms?
Mm-hmm.
The place wanted her to see it at that moment. She didn't see it before when he was trying to show it to him the first time, but she saw it the second time. Why selectively? You follow so far?
Okay.
But you acknowledge that. Wait, let's go a little further. You had said in one of the episodes, and I can't remember the context, but you had quoted it, and you had said, "This is battery acid." Do you remember that?
Did. Yeah, I did.
Okay. What do the monsters feed off of?
Hope, we assume, but we don't really know.
Well, okay, fine. I could take that. Or the
That was my
failing of
assumption.
hope. Right? They feed off the fear of others, the terror of others.
Yeah, sorry, not hope. Your desperation. That's
right. Your desperation, your fear, your terror, all of that. Mm-hmm. You get a feeling of that when the cow and the Jade and whatever. Okay. When Boyd slits the throat of Bob Smiley Bob, the one we say goodbye to and the cicadas come out of, if the worms aren't the worms and Smiley Bob just simply died because Boyd just pulled out courageousness and stood up to them, and that alone killed the monster. The fact that he thought it was worms is kind of like a bait and switch, that it wasn't his bravery, but it was the worms, quote unquote. The bravery alone kills the monsters. It's weird because the thought of Martin being a figment and his worms being a figment and them transferring to Boyd is a figment. You see what the place wants you to see, that you want to be afraid of this. But Boyd getting the courage to take down one of the monsters with the worms wasn't about the worms at all. But they don't want to give him the answer that all along you just needed the courage. To stand up to them.
It's a bit hokey, don't you think?
It is, but you saying, I love that you on this podcast said, this is battery acid, you creep or whatever. That was like, wait, but why can't that be the thing? Wasn't that the whole thing about it, is that you having the courage to stand up to your fear?
Well, correct. But that's
right?
What makes it such an absolute hokey concept. I understand the new It movies are much more tactful in their delivery of this information, but it's still so cheesy. It's the ultimate cheesy thing. It's why Stephen King novels don't always stand up, especially when they're created into movies. A lot of the time it doesn't hold up well because it's got this hokey factor to it that I'm sure comes across beautifully in the written word, but that when you put it on screen, you're like, that is so cheesy. So seeing little baby Seth Green yelling, "This is battery acid," is just like so remarkably cringy. And you're just like, sure, that's burned into my brain forever. I still love you, Seth Green. I love you forever as Oz and Buffy, but holy cow. Just not cute.
But Boyd doing it was inarguably badass. It was the highlight of the episode was when he did that.
Oh, well,
but it had the same effect.
My blood is your blood now.
B word?
No, mother. It was good.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, there is a point to all this because it takes us to Fatima.
Okay.
Now, I like this place. I'm struggling to not be fearful because even Donna is admitting now there's something inside her or she's going crazy. And I am trying to hold the line that there's a rational explanation for what's going on with Fatima. Okay, let's proceed. Now, we had both acknowledged that it's possible that she has anemia, correct? It's possible.
Sure, Dave. Sure.
It's what, you want to moon wear his pants, this bitch?
No.
No, let's go here. Let's go here. Then we'll go the other way.
That's much more reasonable. I just like even the stuff you were coming up with that was rooted in reality, quote unquote. It was too far even for me.
I love Halloween. I'm Spooky Bridget.
Forever spooky.
Exactly. One of the things that I looked at today was when a pregnancy occurs in a time of stress or anxiety or when there's fits of anger going back and forth. And we acknowledge that Fatima's been in a state even before she discovered she was pregnant.
Yeah.
When the bus rolls in, that's when we start to really see it. But she may have been pregnant this whole time. Let's just start there. Now, if we're to go the path of anemia, pregnant women who have anemia that are under constant amount of stress, there is a study about it possibly creating a situation where there is placental abruption. When the placenta separates from the uterine wall, which causes hemorrhaging.
Yes.
Causes pain, causes hemorrhaging. Mm-hmm. So the blood transfusion could explain that. And with women who have anemia, you may need a blood transfusion when that happens because you're anemic and the hemorrhaging is more than just hemorrhaging for you.
Okay.
Explains the pain that she was having in prior episodes. She sees a concave stomach because, let's acknowledge again, this place gets you to see what it wants you to see. Correct?
It's like a thinner type thing, but yes.
Right. Same with the worms. Same with anything in this. The people that you want to see, the boy in white. Only some people can see the boy. Give me a break. The place gets you to see what it wants you to see. So that could just be all it is. She's having placental abruption because she's under constant anxiety and stress, but everybody is so afraid. So when Ellis goes in and gives her the lucky handkerchief, that was the best move for her, because fear is a dangerous compounding thing. Try telling somebody to stop being afraid when they're terrified. In your waking life, it's almost impossible. The fear is always back here. Even though they start calming down a bit, the slightest thing will set them off. And you see that every time somebody barges into the shack, Fatima goes up against the wall.
Yeah.
The rational explanation could be the placental abruption, the stress that's causing it. Elgin needing the blood, being told by the spirits or this kimono wearing lady, yeah, she's going to need some blood because she's got placental abruption after all the stuff we put her through. Terrible place where the disease and the cure. Again, I'm not willing to go monster. I'm being the Bridget here. I'm not willing to go monster baby or monster Fatima. Okay?
Oh,
We're
I
trading
am.
places.
I am willing to go.
You're
monster
Judge
baby.
Reinhold. I'm Ben Savage.
I'm willing to go monster baby, so I don't really care for your reasoning in this. I'm willing to go monster baby. At first I
love
was
this.
like, is this how the monsters are made? Because,
Okay,
if she can't
Dave.
have babies in the normal world, but she wanted children, then maybe her womb then becomes almost like a literal pit of despair. And then is that why? I know this comes from experience. I can say it because I've gone through it.
Ooh.
Is that how the monsters are born? But then you have to concede that there would be baby monsters at some point, which is just so beyond ridiculous. And then I'm like, and then who's caring for this baby monster? That's weird. I mean, the monsters that come out at night. To see a miniature version of those, I don't know. It kind of makes them not as scary. It's like dumb.
Bridget, on Kui.
Yes. So then that was my second thought is, okay, so it's not a baby monster. Maybe it's an Ankui kid. Or maybe these are the type of kids that are born here so that whatever puts them on the stones and steals whatever they're stealing from them can steal that from them. And then does that tie this all together? Okay, then if Fatima loses her child to that, then is there even more reason to then try to go save the Ankui kids? I can't really decide where I want my head to be at for that.
Let's take a step back then. Do you think that what's going on with Fatima ties into what Victor says is the secrets? First, let me remind you, because I wrote it all down.
Okay,
and it's not that much, but it's so dramatic.
It's very
that
dramatically
it's slow.
Yeah.
So let me just remind you. Now think Fatima in your mind. Hold it. Hold it. When I got to the bottom of this, I'm going to use
Oh my God, please
because it's so
don't.
much fun.
Okay.
Jasper was telling secrets. Christopher got angry. It wasn't Jasper. It was the boy in white. He was the one who was down here telling secrets to Christopher.
Okay, now Victor / the boy in white says,
The answers to the end are in the beginning.
it started with the children. Okay, I'm quitting the voice. This is the story that the boy in white tells.
Okay.
It started with the children. What the people they love and trusted did to them. The children are born in the dark, and then they were murdered in the dark. But someone who loved them told them a story that gave them hope. And when the children laid on the stones, they poured their hope into the roots that made the symbol. The roots became the tree. Sarah goes, the faraway tree. And then Victor says, shut the hell up. I'm telling the story. Because he kind of just rolls over her because we're to assume, oh, that is real. That's a real thing. No, Victor doesn't really acknowledge it. He keeps going.
To save the children, Christopher would have to go through the tree.
I did the voice again. I'm so sorry.
He wouldn't listen. He got angry. You're a liar. Everything lies here.
What was what I said in the last episode? Or I've said this in the last few episodes. Is anything to be, and Randall says this too in this episode, there's nothing here to be trusted.
Yeah, of course.
Everything is lies. And yet we trust this place when it says something to us because we're like, oh, it's something that I should do. Let's do that. Oh, Elgin, keep Fatima in a dark cellar room to have her non-baby. Christopher wouldn't listen / go to the tree. So I told my mother what the boy in white said, and that's why she left us.
I think that's probably the hardest bit of information to process from this episode.
There's a lot to it too, because Ethan is the first person to see the boy in white. Well, Victor technically.
That we know of.
Well, Christopher technically.
Yeah, that we see though.
Yeah, exactly. But let's go back to Fatima. Now, doesn't some of that resonate with what's happening here? They're born in the dark. I don't know about the murder part.
Yeah.
But the born in the dark thing, you're in a cellar room in the back without any walls and light. Whatever happens after that, don't you think that maybe something here is tying in or they're trying to repeat history? And maybe I'll acknowledge this. Part of getting out of this town may be true with what the kimono wearing lady says to Elgin. It has to happen this way. This non-kid has to be born, and the hope from that kid has to pour into the roots of the tree that ultimately gets them out, which is bananas. And we have to acknowledge one thing. When is the first time that Jade sees the symbol? It's like he knew the answer before he knew the answer.
I don't remember the first time he saw it.
As it so happens, he finds the symbol for the first time in the root cellar that Fatima and Elgin happen to be in. But the second time he sees it is on the tree that he and Jim were trying to hang the antenna up the first time.
So when he sees
the
that
radio.
the Civil War soldier?
Yep, and it's the highest tree in the town outside of Colony House being a thing.
Is it a faraway tree?
No, see, that's why I said...
Okay.
Sarah says, a faraway tree, and Victor rolls over her. We are meant to pick that up and be thrown off by what she says. Probably, maybe, I don't know. Or, what if that tree was a faraway tree? We only saw one side of it. It's not a bottle tree. It could just be a faraway tree.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think the part I was most shocked by was the fact that Christopher was actually talking to the boy in white. Because of the way that the story has been told to this point, you assume that Christopher is the reason everyone's dead. Now I'm questioning, is he the reason that everyone's dead, or did something else happen that we're not aware of? Did the monsters trick everybody, or did something else happen? And Victor's just left to assume that it was Christopher because he got a bad feeling from Christopher, because he feels like Christopher got angry over time. I don't know.
Well, okay, I hate this so much. What if Victor's not done remembering Eloise? There's something that he said when he was talking about Eloise and he playing hide and go seek.
She was the best
How
at
he
hiding.
could never find her.
Yeah. I'm
And the
starting to
church was
think
the
that
last
everybody's
place he
right,
looked.
that the settlement is like maybe Eloise is still alive.
Well, I wasn't thinking that. I was actually going to go the other way.
Okay.
Now, I said offhand that Victor, when he can remember, remembers in much detail.
Yes.
You lead him down and he remembers so clearly everything in a way that most people do not.
Well, it's like it's all repressed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, self-repressed,
It's all
right?
repressed, yeah.
Now, what if he wasn't done remembering Eloise? Now, I know we saw the flashback scene both times when it was just him and his mother in the cellar and him with Eloise. Do you think it's very possible that Eloise may have passed when they first got there, but Victor continued to see her? Because the whole thing about
maybe.
hide and go seek and never being able to find her, and why he may have not remembered her.
Maybe.
A lot of that's painful.
I'm willing to concede some of that. I mean, his memories are kind of jumbled up.
Yeah. And so that could just be an additional fact that he kind of forgot.
Maybe, because I mean, he
passed
thought that Jasper was talking to Christopher.
Exactly. He
And then
misremembered.
Yeah, and he misremembered the whole thing.
And this works perfectly well for the conversation that we had earlier when it came to Fabi and Fom and Father Fatchery and Farton.
Not Farton.
Or Martin. Because we don't know if he was real or imagined, whatever. Or Randall, as you put it. Moon wears pants. Much.
I'm just saying I thought that's what the show was trying to do. That's all, Dave.
I'm kidding. I actually really did love it because it's not something I would have thought of. But then Eloise would be like that for Victor. The people that pass on somehow show up again, and that's Eloise. And Eloise runs after her mom, but that's maybe what the place wants him to see and test him. It's just an interesting idea. He does remember her saying, keep each other safe, finally. But then again, they could be seeing the same boy in white Eloise. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a little weird. It was the whole hide and seek and me never finding her and him never finding her on that day, by the way.
I thought that was
the
more
church
like
was a place she would never go.
I thought it was more of like see, now she's going to show up later and that won't be that conspicuous because she was really good at hiding and I could never find her. Or she was really good at hiding and she died somewhere and we'll find her body later kind of thing.
Maybe. Well, 40 years later, it'd be dust, I think. Maybe? I don't really know.
No.
In the elements? Well, let me put it this way. After this whole story, what if he starts seeing her now?
Maybe.
That's the thing. It's just now that he's remembered this far, he can remember that, oh, I never really did find her until later when the root cellar thing happened and all of a sudden she was there. I mean, remember what he said about the boy in white himself? He said something to the effect of, he stopped seeing me, or I can't remember exactly what he said, but he stopped seeing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now why is the question. And God, for how long? Poor guy.
It seems like he stopped talking to Ethan too.
Why?
Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen him since he pushed Tabitha out of the lighthouse. That's the last time we really saw him. Well, and then when Tabitha's in the town, we see him like waving. But that's the last time we've seen
in Camden.
him.
Now, let me go back to this one line, because this is the part I hate the most. Because I feel like this was said before, maybe, and I can't remember when. The answers to the end are at the beginning. That is not a nothing line. Now, is that for us? Is it all about that opening scene? Something we might have missed? Could it be the story that Ethan tells Julie and Julie's all flippant?
With
like,
Norman?
nah, he dies. He's dead.
Norman.
Rita's? No.
That's why I remember.
Then it made me think of the Pratts, because Frank Pratt getting drunk in the bar, and we're talking about Jim and that tall glass of whiskey. Just something about all of that. Everything seems to sort of repeat a little bit. That maybe, what was Frank Pratt doing? He went across the street to the bar, just like Jim did when, he said it was Julie was born. I wanted to be a better father to my kids, be a better husband than my dad was. So he goes across the street to the bar, pours a tall glass of whiskey. And I know that some people who have alcoholism issues do that. They test themselves to see if they can still do it. And then they walk away, hopefully, and they're all right. But I just thought that was an interesting callback, because first episode, that's what you see. And it makes me want to re-examine that whole situation with Frank Pratt leading up to the box and all that stuff. But I didn't. Ain't nobody got time for that. But I have been making note of the fact that some themes keep repeating. Henry Kavanaugh himself they said the thing out loud. You are me 40 years ago. Here's a cautionary tale points at self.
Well, I thought it was a possibility of what it meant for the key is in the beginning or whatever. The end is in the beginning or whatever. Was the fact that the story repeated itself through Miranda and then also through Tabitha. The visions of the place ahead of time, the bracelet that they both made. Is there something to all of that?
God, I feel like we need to do a murder board with all these facts.
I know. Well, I've watched the first episode like 3 or 4 times already. So I'm just trying to think back to the first episode. Yeah, maybe that story does have more significance than we thought it did. I meant the story Ethan was telling.
The Chromonocle thing, whatever. The Lake of Tears, right?
The Lake of Tears,
anyway.
Yeah.
Is that the Brundles?
Maybe. Honestly, maybe.
But tangibly speaking, the whole Frank Pratt thing rubs me a bit the wrong way, because could it have been he had, similar to Julie, an inclination or a compulsion to go drinking for that stuff to go into motion, to prepare this place for Tabitha and the Matthews and Jade and all that stuff? I hate it, because maybe the town gave up on that family as a possible solution to their problem. They're like, okay, no, these guys are coming in now. Oh, I'm not saying this for an answer, really. I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't know.
I know. I'm feeling the same thing. It's kind of like the last episode. There's a thing there, but there's not enough information to really touch it. It's like it's like Jade. I keep trying to hold on to it, but it's like water. It's pouring through my finger.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We don't see the obvious thing. We're too wrapped up in thinking Fatima is a monster to think that Fatima killing Tilly is actually a thing. I hate it.
What?
Because it's a real thing. Yeah. Pregnant women do have hormones.
Correct.
And
yes.
some of those hormones don't work quite right. And what's interesting is it's very possible that had Fatima gotten the antipsychotics, it might have actually helped even her out. It's as though this place doesn't want her to get the help that she needs, because in some pregnant women, when they experience anger, it does produce a rage-like effect that could make it possible for something inside her to be an uncontrollable rage that is unstoppable and could have caused that to happen. It's grounded and based in a real possibility. But everybody's so wrapped up in the idea. The audience, the people in this place are so wrapped up in the idea that they didn't name until now, that this is Monster Baby and Monster Fatima, that they didn't think that that was a possibility. And yet it is. And it's completely based in reality, in rationale.
Yeah, but it doesn't excuse you from murder, even in a court of law.
Well, no, in a court of law, it would be reduced to something like, not manslaughter, it'd be like murder in the third degree, I think it is.
It would take a lot, Dave, to be able to prove that. It's like the insanity defense. It's not as easy as television and movies have made it seem. It's quite difficult, actually, to get that instead of just going through a regular court of law. To be found incapable in a court of law, it doesn't happen. People try it all the time because we grew up thinking it's like, oh, I can just claim I'm insane and it's fine. But like, it's much more
the temporary
difficult.
insanity, you're right. But in this case, it's entirely possible. Now, we don't have a court system. So in the absence of a court system, it's grounded in reality. Sarah accidentally killed her brother.
Mm-hmm.
We can all acknowledge that.
Correct.
Fatima had this uncontrollable hormonal rage that is entirely grounded in reality. It's convenient for this place. It works in their favor, this place's favor. But see, that's the thing. We get so wrapped up in that.
But Dave, based on what you said about her pregnancy so far, she would have to have every insanely small percentage of everything. You had talked about it being ectopic or it being a hysterical pregnancy.
Well, you said hysterical pregnancy. Keep that in mind.
The thing where you have the extreme morning sickness. It can't be
Pica.
every single thing that's like extremely rare. Because you're talking about a level of hormones that is so rare, Dave. When you're saying like
Doesn't
that's
seem
rooted
rare to
in
me.
It is though.
Well,
okay, give me the last
Bridget,
court case where that happened.
Bridget, let me just put it to you this way. Isn't that how miracles are defined? They are explainable in reality. There are not often miracles that aren't something that can be explained, but the circumstances that produce them are so infinitesimally small, like we all acknowledge. How do you not see that as a miracle? That the statistical likelihood of these events occurring in such a manner to produce this outcome. Even the people have even scientifically explained how frogs could fall from the sky, for example. But the statistical likelihood would have to be so small that how can it not be a miracle for it to happen?
Well, yeah, I believe in miracles 100%.
So why couldn't Fatima's symptoms or the things that could be explained in reality be constituted as, again, I'm not saying that this place doesn't produce the effects that it should, that are convenient for it to do what it needs to do.
I just think
but they are explainable in reality.
I think you're oversimplifying something.
I think I'm over-explaining.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I'm saying like, that is so incredibly rare, and it still doesn't stand up to the fact that, one, that hardly ever happens. Two, if that were such a thing, you'd hear about it every day that like a pregnant woman was killing someone.
You're forgetting where she's at and where, I mean, not just physically, but mentally. She's in a state constantly where she is not naming the thing that she is terrified of, and everybody else is producing more of that pressure. It explains the placental abruption. It doesn't quite explain the PUL, the pregnancy position. Like, it's not in the normal place, the baby.
Yeah.
Which would require ultravaginal ultrasound, whatever. But it does explain the placental abruption. It explains the hormonal rage. It explains a lot of things. We take it for granted because we're too stuck on the monster baby part to even acknowledge that that's a thing.
But what explains the hormonal rage?
The constant fear, the constant anxiety, the constant stress that she must be under. We see her in every episode, but we throw it away. It's like what we say about The Walking Dead. It's like, you know, when somebody...
Frustration.
Why can't you walk away from the zombies?
It's like being like, oh, well, she's just being hysterical. That's why I'm like,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a reason.
That explanation you just gave made more sense.
Oh yeah,
when you were just,
sorry.
When you were just listing them, I'm like, you just sound like a dick now. You're like, oh, well, she's a woman, so hormones.
Yeah. Wait, what? Did I stutter?
That's what I came off of. That's why I was like, what the hell is going on right now? Like, what are you talking about?
Bridget, you're a woman, you know, right? You get crazy.
I mean,
it's called hysteria for a reason.
To some
it comes
degree,
from
yes.
The Hister River.
So I was like, what's happening right now? I was like,
that's the worst part about this, because it's like they're trying to say she's hysterical without saying hysterical. But in a sense, it does come from somewhere. And in her case, it's extreme. And everybody in this place is in this constant state of hysteria, but she happens to be, I'm just going to say, she happens to be pregnant. But it's not your baby. What the hell did Elgin say that you were stuck on? Let's go back to that.
Oh,
it's just not yours, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Like, it's just not yours.
I know, because I was just like, is it the creepy lady's baby? Do you see why I got stuck on this? Where I was like, what?
I know. See, I had to go with the rational, and I will continue going on the rational, but let's just go to what you think, because Fatima finally sees the kimono wearing lady in the shack. Okay, now, when you said what you said
there's
just
a connection
now,
there, clearly.
So where does your mind go when first of all, when Elgin says what he says, and she sees the
well,
woman
it
in the shack,
seems
where
like
does your
he's
mind go?
doing all of these things per this creepy lady's request.
Sure. And then they had a conversation
Yes.
that we don't know about.
And because now he's like talking out loud and he's like, yes, I will do that, or whatever he said. And I was like, what, you guys are like friends now? You and the creepy lady? Help me, Elgin. You're the only one who can help me.
Well, Bridget, wouldn't angels look like that, Bridget?
Well, not like that, but they would look terrifying.
The conversation between Julie and yeah. But we have to go back to Randall and he, because it's not nothing. We associate Randall having a change of mood, but there's more there than we realize, because whereas Elgin was super terrified when we first see him in the bus, he throws up on Randall. I feel like Randall's gone to the complete other side of where Elgin is now. Elgin was terrified of this place, having nightmares, things pushing down on him in his sleep, drowning him in the tub.
Yeah.
He's gone the other way, and now he's with this place. Randall, when we first meet him, is determined to solve the mystery, kind of like Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And now Elgin is on that side now. Randall's like, F this. I'm with Jim. I push too hard. I want out of this place. But like not in the way that I wanted before. I want to just somebody figure this out, because I'm not gonna. Elgin was like, get us out of here to the bus driver. That's where Randall is now.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? The mirror flip on these two characters?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, now going back to the kimono wearing lady, it's just interesting to see this character go completely on the other side of where they were before.
Well, he's lost his mind.
He's bought in.
Yeah. But again, I'm struggling because it's the whole concept of maybe I just don't understand the rules of this reality. Are they trying to hurt you, or are they trying to help you? Is everything ominous, or does it just come off that way because it comes off that way? So the whole like help me, but I'm actually holding you under the water. Was she holding him under the water, or was she trying to help him out of the water?
Or was she trying to wake him up at that time, or what? Whatever.
Who knows?
And what is the first thing that Fatima does? Okay, that's interesting. We didn't talk about this in the last episode, but when Fatima looks down at her saline drip, there's like a little bit of a rash or something. And what is the first thing she does? She pulls it out and she spits out what looks like water.
Yeah.
Kind of like the drowning kimono wearing lady, whatever. Drowning yet desiccated. Okay, so it's just not yours. See, this is what I hate about the show sometimes. Oh, you're going to drop a line like that and end the episode, you jerk? Stupid jerk. But look, it does go hand in hand with what Victor's story about the secrets is all about, though.
Yeah.
Well, then whose is it?
That's why I was like, is it the creepy ladies? That doesn't really make any sense either. How have you received a surrogacy? But who knows?
Well, now I'm thinking, when did that happen? When did they conceive? I'm sorry. It's just weird. A weird thing to think about, because I feel like, ooh, that's a bit personal, Dave.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's gone off the deep end.
We've hit a wall.
The only time you see Kenny is when he's interrogating people with Acosta. There's really not much there either.
Good cop, bad cop.
Everybody believes Sarah did it, but we know that Sarah didn't, so there's nothing really to talk about there.
A little bit, though. Do you think that's a story that's not over? That
for Sarah?
The town is going to continue to pursue Sarah?
Yeah,
in the
I
absence
think so.
of Fatima?
I think the problem is that really did lose Boyd his respect in town, was choosing to save Sarah. By doing that now, he no longer has the authority that he had over everybody in order to save Fatima, which he could have done had he not wasted that chance on Sarah. They have both done something wrong. Right. And I have a feeling that although Fatima wants to find Ellis, that this will consume her. I thought she might walk out in the middle of the night and just let one of the things take her.
Wait, Fatima?
Yeah. She killed someone, Dave.
Oh!
She
You're talking
killed
about when she was in the shack.
Yes, she
Right?
killed someone. She's not just
Okay.
going to let that go. That doesn't go away just because you have something living in your body that you don't know what it is. You've now killed somebody.
And
You
she says
witnessed
as much.
yourself doing that.
Yeah. So the place made it so that she was
It's
safe.
the same thing with Sarah.
from that
Sarah
happening.
did something wrong. She killed someone. She killed her own brother. It's not like just because all of a sudden we feel bad for the character that it didn't happen. It still happened.
But it's so interesting because even Kenny runs to her defense, knowing full well that she was responsible for killing her father. Sarah was
But
responsible
that's
for
what the
killing his father.
responsible thing is to do. It's like all of a sudden the townspeople are acting like a crazy mob and there's so few voices of reason. No one is proven guilty until they have been tried in our world. We are so quick to just assume guilt that
You're onto something. Because in our world, you're innocent until proven guilty. But just like with Fatima and all the rational explanations that I listed out endlessly, almost all of which are fear-induced or stress-induced, well then this town is succumbing not only to monster baby Fatima, but to its base instincts. Some people are unaffected because they had the luxury of having Kenny's mom, Tianchen, the tea, the comfort, making a hard place seem not that bad. They took Tianchen away, and Kenny's trying to maintain that spark. And he is moving about the world, even though Acosta's like, but she killed your dad. I can't understand. And then Ethan comes in. There's another crisis to have to deal with so that Acosta doesn't go for Sarah.
well, that's often my frustration with our judicial system is the fact that we publicly announce when people have been accused of things. In other countries, that's not a thing because that leads to a level of bias then from that point forward. If you've been accused of assaulting someone, even if you were found not guilty in a court of law, that is now in the ether about you.
Yeah, 50% of people who hear that will automatically assume guilt, which is why, though, at least in this country, we established the idea of jurisprudence and innocent until proven guilty, that concept.
Correct. But the fact that the media is allowed to announce it publicly to everyone, I'm sorry, but that undermines the whole
It's still
judicial
a thing, yeah.
process. That's not a thing in, I think, the UK.
The big difference between that is that the press isn't allowed to report on those facts and is not allowed into the courtroom. That's the difference. But I think they do announce publicly. But that's not the thing. Let's take a step back. Let's take a huge step back. There is no court system in this place.
Well, I know.
And so, well, no. But to take what you're saying further, that's the problem. Just like Fatima is under constant stress, so too are the people. It's not just being pregnant. Being pregnant just adds on to that and it affects her in ways that compound the cramps and the whatever. We can call it whatever you want. You don't have to call it placental abruption, whatever it is. It's obvious that the stress is affecting her. So too is it affecting the people in this town. And we know what that looks like. We've seen enough films and know what mob mentality looks like, Bridget, don't we?
Yeah.
We see when rage and stuff takes over people and makes them lose their senses to the point of violence.
Yep.
And cutting friends off from one another.
Yep.
We know what that's like. It makes complete sense that whereas before everybody was very solemn when it came to Frank Pratt having to go into the box, because isn't it hard enough? Isn't this place hard enough? 96 days without
No, they're going to be like
incident?
screaming for blood this time.
Now, this time, yes.
Yeah.
And furthermore, couldn't this be, and this was my initial thought when I heard about Victor's tragic story, wouldn't have that been enough? Whereas once we were united and together, and this does kind of touch on the story that Victor tells about the secrets, whereas once we were united and together, and we were uniting under Tianxin's funeral, because all we had were each other, what would be the one thing that would get everybody in this town killed? Rage, mob mentality, chaos? That was my initial thought when Victor told his tragic story about the whole town being dead.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they turned against each other. And now that this thing has been introduced in the atmosphere, this fear, this hysteria, yeah. And so Victor being adamant about getting the secrets and the truth and the core of this place before that happens, that's where my mind is going. Sometimes it's just about vibes, about feelings. I'm getting really involved in this stuff. But did you get that feeling too, that maybe that's all it is? The town, it just descends into chaos and that's how everybody died. It wasn't Christopher. The town turned on each other. They told each other, the monsters, each other's hiding spots.
I don't know, because it was everyone in one fell swoop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
That would
willing
have to
to
build,
concede
wouldn't
it yet. I'm not willing to say that that's what it is yet.
Again, vibes. It's not explicitly said anywhere, but that was my first thought. Civilizations crumble from within. They don't crumble from without. Yes, they have stressors, but It's when you can get a republic to turn on itself. That's when you have civilizational collapse. Just like Sarah's hysteria. If I hear a kid saying Ankui again,
Well,
just
you're going to hear
turn
it.
off the TV.
You're going to hear it.
I
Dave.
know. God damn it. But I did predict that we would not hear Jasper talking. So like Randall, you're welcome. You can hate me all you want. Objectively cooler though, that it was the boy in white this whole time. Oh yeah. We did gloss over this one line. Henry says what Kenny says. A lot of smart people have tried to figure this place out.
Mhm.
Jay goes, I'm smarter. And then Jim busts in like, what are you filling my wife with all this nonsense.
I'm really glad Jade said what he said because Tabitha is a full-grown adult. This is fully a conversation you can have with your wife. Why are you going to this dude, like yelling at him about this? It's ridiculous.
On a serious note, though, it was something that Jim said in his fight with Tabitha. I'm surprised that we didn't pick up on it. You ever notice that when you're fighting with somebody, you're angry about the you hate in others what you hate in yourself? Because they're essentially doing the same thing. We did kind of touch on that.
Yeah.
But it was the actual things he said in the fight. He's saying, you're doing this because you want to solve this place.
That's what I kept telling you. That's what I was trying to say last episode. Yeah, I was trying to say the same thing.
But it really clicked in that yelling match between he and Jade. Whoa.
For you, I guess.
But it's not just... but it's not just Jim. It's Tabitha too. Because she hates him because he kind of did keep everything together. Or he was trying to. The difference is him not letting go. It's kind of like what Jade says. Henry says this. You got everybody wound up so tight, it's like they can't breathe. That if you let go for 1 second, it's not them that's going to fall apart. It's you. It's interesting to hear that, to see that's actually true. Henry, I'm the cautionary tale. Because if Jim names the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm lost, because everybody in his family was lost at that time, he felt like he was the only one who had to keep it together. It's true that Tabitha wanted him to just admit that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm lost. It can equally be true that somebody had to keep it together.
Sure. Okay.
But time moves on. Jim never let go. Jim never fell apart. Jim never named the fact that he didn't know what he was doing. I do have sympathy for Jim, which is why let me just read what I wrote about Henry in this moment. Henry is a beautiful man. Pours the tallest glass of alcohol, quote unquote, that they could find for Jim to, quote unquote, renew his vows to be a better husband and father. That's the perfect response. It's time to renew your vows. Let's start from scratch. Tell your wife that you're afraid. Tell your wife that you're terrified. Tell your wife that you don't know what you're doing.
Well, yeah, because much
projecting.
Like everybody's problems in any television show, if you would just talk, the problems would be non-existent.
Yeah, but if you don't know what to talk about, there's no point in talking unless you could figure out what it is that you're getting wrong. Otherwise, you're just stumbling in the dark. You don't know that it's you. That's what I like the most about these interactions. It makes prior conversations click a lot better, make a lot more sense. Because like I said about that fight, they're both right, but they're also very both wrong. Okay, I'm so glad we're here in the realm of Henry. Jade comes back to the bar. He hears some knocking around. What was your first thought?
Yeah.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I thought that Henry and Donna had knocked boots.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes. And there's a lot of evidence for that, even though it's not explicitly said, because Donna kind of comes in a little late to that whole murder mystery. Like, oh, Dilly's body, let me put a sheet on it.
I didn't really think about it after that. When she wasn't there, then I kind of let it go. But I had thought that maybe it was what had happened.
I did not let it go. Henry stumbling. Henry had it's tied on a little bit too much the night before when they were knocking boots. So she got up a little earlier. He stumbled around. He's knocking things around. He's putting his pants on.
Well, yeah, I know. There was like a grunting sound. It was like, what is happening in that room right now?
Quick, put on your penis is out. Put on some pants, Moon.
It was weird. It was very, very weird.
It was weird, wasn't it?
Their own.
I'm with it. Man, the man's been alone for 40 goddamn years.
I know.
Knock that. She's a younger woman too. Scandalous.
Every time I look at Donna now, someone posted this meme on Relishing the Dead's timeline. It's the meme of Doug, forgot his last name, from King of Queens with his hands in his pocket.
Damn you.
Yeah, it's him with his hands in his pocket, and he has like this smile. and it was like every time Donna's on screen, and it made me it's like that's all I can think of now. Tell me that don't look like Donna. I'm dead.
Just as like a Donna look. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Just like look
I
at
got
the
it.
hands in the pockets. Look at the hands in the pockets. The shrug.
Yeah, the flannel.
The half smirk, the flannel, everything about it just screams Donna. Kills me.
I get it. But now, okay. But see, admittedly, that takes on a whole new meaning.
It's anytime anybody show like any mention of Donna now, that's all I picture in my head is that.
She walks into the post office / sheriff station with Boyd and Elsie yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Just walking in like
and that's how she walks in.
like
just
oh my God.
You're gonna think of it now from now on, and it's worth it.
Damn you. Well, let me end on this note.
Okay.
I almost don't like that I want to bring this up, and it is our last point, but Acosta is continuing to go the path, and it's almost as if it's naming it out loud, of replacing Boyd.
I just talked about this, Dave.
Well, Kenny is we didn't really though. But we didn't name it.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't either. But
well, then let's
here we are.
Then let's just not.
There's nothing more to talk about.
Okay.
It's interesting to see in the process of solving the murder of Tilly, Boyd just kind of lets go their little thing that they have with each other.
All right, hold on. I got to do some quick math. Okay. So Tabitha came back to the town, and with her came Henry, 2 EMTs, and Acosta. Tabitha was already in the town, so she doesn't count. That point is moot. So then we have the 2 EMTs who died. So then I just have Acosta and Henry. And Nikki died.
Right. Nikki was killed.
No one else had died yet. Now Tilly died. So now we're even, right? Okay, we're even. We had talked about someone else was going to die, but then nobody did. So I was kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Are we even though? The whole Tabitha thing does kind of throw things for a loop a bit, but...
Well, and then Dale died too.
That's
so now what? We're owed a new person?
Well, we're owed a new person. Who could that new person be? Monster baby.
Oh.
It's not your baby.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about Boyd, so that's fair.
Oh, so anyway, you threw off the scent. Cool.
I did. I'm really good at it.
Cool. Costa's Boyd replacement. End of story. She's playing the part quite well with Kenny in that good cop, bad cop thing.
I know, but Kenny's no longer a deputy, so...
But maybe he just needed a new Boyd to become the deputy. See, this is what I'm trying to tell you.
No.
I know, it's frustrating.
I don't like it.
She is the new hero of the story. Boyd is out.
Except I hate her, and so does everybody else, so good luck.
She's the new it girl.
She's not.
Imagine they probably hated Boyd when he first came in. Look, who does this guy think he is coming into the town telling us what to do?
Probably.
Then again, I like sleeping in a bed.
Boyd's first move wasn't shooting somebody to death, though, so there's that.
His wife was, though.
What wasn't her first move? It was like her 10th move. It was like her 10th move, at least.
In any case, if you like what you've heard, head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawking-dead. 5 stars and a pew-pew again. It's all we need to know that you love us, but tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what you think we might have missed. Just remember to tell us after every single episode. It actually helps. And also, we will read it on social media and on the next podcast and all those things. We love to hear it. And if you really like what we're doing, head on over to either ko-fi.com/squawking-dead or patreon.com/squawking-dead and just follow so that you can get the schedule to join us here for free. Following is free too, because it's the only place where we post our recording schedules. We don't post them on social media. If you like what we're doing here as an institution and you want to support these kinds of institutions and keep them going, because it's hard out here, folks, you can tip us on Ko-fi and get our unedited episode recordings and my notes of madness for 30 days. If you join a membership tier, for as long as you're subscribed, you can get all our unedited episode recordings, our pre-squawk insights, a bunch of perks listed out. Among them, if you happen to join the Whisperers, Great M, or Survivors tier, a free classic t-shirt upon signing up, as well as a whole host of other perks. The best one being, if you happen to join either the Great M or Survivors tier, you can join us on these podcasts with Bridget and I talking about your crazy theories so that I and Bridget in this episode don't look like complete ass lunatics.
Shut up.
I've been your host, David Cameo.
And I'm Bridget. You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
Don't look for me I don't want you to cancel me.
Yeah, you'll probably cancel me. Hey, guess what? I found a really interesting Reddit post. Want to hear it?
I'd love to.
Okay. Japanese folklore in regards to From series.
Oh, great. I ran across that today.
This is an R From series. The Komodo woman is a Japanese yokai known as ubume.
Yep.
Folklore says that Japanese women who die in childbirth would become ubume, and these were wandering spirits who were wearing bloodstained white komodos. They have long dark hair. They would often be seen holding what looked like a baby, and they then try to hand the baby to strangers. They ask for help from humans in caring for their babies, and if you do this, you will be cursed. If you take the baby, you will suddenly become aware the baby is a stone, and you won't be able to put the stone down, and it will get larger and heavier until it ultimately crushes you. Jade saw a vision of a man in the root cellar who was crushed by a massive boulder.
Stone.
Same root cellar, by the way. There are also stories of them causing women to give birth to ghost children. Final point. They are often known to be accompanied by murders of crows. Do with this information what you will. Mrs. Truong is the name of the poster. Quite interesting, honestly.
Ankui.
Wish I had known about this earlier. My favorite post, though, so far is POV, the fan base waiting for Jasper to speak, and it's just someone dressing up as a clown, and that's my favorite. Because you're right, that was us. Thank you so much.
Oh no, it was you. That was cool. I figured that one out a while ago. Yeah, I'm the best.
Victor says a dummy can talk. I believe him. That's what they said.
It's like the Superman tagline from the poster. If believe a man can fly, believe a dummy can talk.
Okay.
Do you remember when Sarah was trying to get the dummy to talk? That was the funniest thing.
Yes, that was
Victor,
hilarious.
It's hilarious.
No, you're not doing it right.
I'm doing the best I can.
That was hilarious. This is also my favorite. There's another meme that says bitches be like, this is my comfort character, and then choose a character that hasn't had a day of comfort in their lives, and it's a picture of Kenny.
It's like complete opposite of TWD. It's like, this is my comfort character. None are comfortable.
It's so funny.
What do the things look on the inside? Ethan's my comfort character.
Oh my god. There are some really interesting stuff on here. I need to get off of here because I'm gonna get like sucked in. But like
you need to.
Tien Chen's death caused the sprout of vegetables in the forest. Sarah said that her brother had a fear of cicadas. All of a sudden, cicadas appear after his death. Sarah hinted at something like, what if a person's death becomes a part of the forest? Tien died trying to save the livestock, and there wasn't enough food to feed the town. Up until her last moment, she could only think of her son, Kenny, and that Boyd has to take care of him. Her faith was so strong in saving the food / her son. Did her last moment cause this? Whew, these are some good theories, y'all. Everyone in the subreddit, it's Jim and Jade fighting, and Jim says, my theory is right, and Jade says, no, my theory is right. And then it's a picture of Henry and says, should I tell them about my crazy theory?
Actually, Henry would just come in and goes, shut the F up.
Maybe sometimes you just shut the F up and listen to your wife. And I was like, whoa. Breaking news, first revelation in 3 seasons, and it's Julie throwing the rope down the well.
That's it. That's all you get.
That's the breaking news.
And the one thing that makes concrete sense. Here's what I want to say, Bridget.
What's up?
I do remember how I wanted to end this episode.
What's that?
I reclaim my power.
Oh. Congratulations.
I'm the rational one again.
No, yeah, you got it. You got it this episode.
That's it. That's all I wanted to say. That's it. That's how we ended the show. Officially. You know what? I feel like a man now.
That's
or a real man. Not like Jim, that cuck.
Oh my god.
Thank you again for making it to the end of yet another discussion on Squawking Dead. This one on From's 8th episode of its 3rd season titled Threshold. And as always, we like to acknowledge our Great M survivors and Whisperers tier members. At the end of every episode, it's a little perk that they receive when you join a membership on either Ko-fi or Patreon. Starting with the Great M tier, the greatest-ish tier, we have @RealRyanGM on Instagram and X. Moving on to the survivors tier, we have Douglas Atherton, @Walking Dead Artist 2 on Instagram. Moving on to the Whispers tier, we have on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Aiden Atkin, ko-fi.com/fanartlindy, and ko-fi.com/Connie Dixon, the number 4, LYFE. On Instagram, we have at Eliza Jones 71, and on Facebook, we have at Kim.Rowley, the number 1. With only 2 episodes to go and only 1 episode recorded this week, we move right back into 2 episodes a week, starting with Silo's season 2 premiere. Episodes of Silo actually premiere on Friday mornings, midnight Pacific time, contrary to what they had promoted. And of course, we have the final 2 episodes of From, the penultimate and the season finale of season 3. Can't wait to wrap up From's 3rd season, and hopefully things start to make sense as they sort of have been, at least as far as this episode goes. I'm hoping they continue down this path of making a little bit more sense of what we've been watching. And more than anything else, I hope you've been enjoying the ride, both watching From and our discussions on From. I know that we don't go as deep into the rabbit hole as most podcasts might when it comes to the series, but if we do, we would be prone to 6-hour live streams like the one I was just on last Sunday night after this recording. I popped onto at Sci-Fi Vision's YouTube channel and took part in a 6+ hour long live stream with her and her audience, along with Julie B Deep Dives. She has a YouTube channel as well as a Twitter presence, and I think she's on Blue Sky too now, as we are. If you want to check that out, I will leave the link to that live stream in the description. If you have the stomach for it, I think you might actually get a lot out of it. I had made some corrections on that live stream that helped me make some corrections on this episode, actually. Namely, one in particular, which was the symbol that Jade finds is not on the tree at first, but it was in the root cellar that Fatima and Elgin happen to be struggling in at the end of this episode. In any case, with so much on the table, I sincerely hope you enjoyed this episode. And with that, just remember, we are Squawking Dead.